right, so welcome everyone. We'll just take a couple of moments to get settled. We had another incident of the fire alarm going off today, so I might be using Penny as a bolster because she won't leave my side because she was terrified, but we'll see what happens. But I'll do my best to demo all of this for you. Okay, so you'll need a couple of blocks for practice today. If you don't have blocks, you can always take pillows rolled up, or you can always roll up a blanket or towels. So you just want something that will have a little bit of height, but is soft. So you don't want to use books for blocks today. And we are going to start practice on our belly. So you can take those blocks, or you can take the towels or pillows underneath the fronts of your shoulders. All right, so you can set those up about shoulder width distance apart. If you are using more fabric style of props, you'll just roll them as much as you can, or you can stack a bunch of pillows as well. Okay. So I'm just gonna get myself all sorted here. Okay. Now it doesn't matter so much the depth that you start this pose in on your belly. Just making sure that there's a really, really gentle opening of the heart. Your hands can come back, palms face up, or you're welcome to take the hands forward, palms face down. Just make sure that the top of your shoulder is connected onto your prop and that it's not overhanging. So you want your shoulder fully on your blanket or on your block rather than the shoulder in front. Okay.
Get right over here, I'll find it for you.
Okay, so now that you're just starting to make your way into the shape, maybe you've been here for a few moments. For anyone joining in after, you're just starting on your belly with props underneath your shoulders. You can always walk your feet out wide. Allow your heels to drop in towards one another. Slide your shoulder blades back together as you find this gentle opening through your heart. I really wanted to focus on an intention of calling in an unbound heart today. So a heart that's not bound by the worries of the day, the month, the year. A heart that's not weighed down by past decisions, words, labels. A heart essentially that is allowed to be stretched wide open and safe in that space. I think when the world around us is moving fast or is uncertain or is new, it's really easy for us to numb. It's easy to try to push out feelings, try to push out sensations, and just distract. And even when we come to our mats, that sometimes the intention is actually to not sit with ourselves. It's to distract ourselves with movement, to distract ourselves with some sort of a goal or accomplishment. And so I invite you today in this practice to just simply sit, to be exactly as you are in this moment, and to sit with what's happening both within and around you. Speaking from personal experience, it feels like these past few months have taken our hearts and stretched them out so much wider than the capacity that they were in before. That we've been asked to feel emotions on such a deeper level than we've ever really been called to. And there's things that were certain that have become uncertain. And there's things that we thought we knew that we don't anymore. And by just sitting with these emotions, even if it feels like the world's going to end or we're not going to make it through that feeling, look back at the other times in your life that you felt that. Look back at the heartache, at the grief, at the major shifts, and you made it here. And I think this is just such a natural response that we've gotten used to over the years. When it feels like our heart has too much to feel, too much emotion to bear, we shut down and we feel like we can't. But I promise you, you can and you will. And so today, you don't have to process anything. You don't have to figure it out. All that I ask is that you just simply sit with yourself and allow feeling to shift. Because inevitably, feeling is emotion. It's in motion. And when we grasp and attach onto these feelings and try to hold them and secure ourselves, we block that pathway to freedom. So just pause and notice. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a giant distraction. Just notice physical sensations. Notice that language that doesn't have words. And then just simply take that next breath. And start over again. Notice and breathe. And that's all that you have to do here on your mat tonight. Can you soften into the backs of your glutes, the muscles alongside your spine, the back of your head, neck, and shoulders. Can you let your body deepen in these last few breaths, trusting your props on the earth to hold you up? To gently come out of this shape. If your hands are back, you can start to bring them forward. And then rise one shoulder at a time to release your prop out from under. You can pick up the other one. And then simply land once again onto your belly. This time arms down beside you, palms face up. Allow that really gentle opening across your shoulders to ease back to a neutral spine. Send your breath into the back of your rib cage. And know that it's okay to just find depth within the breath today. Now, if you have low back sensitivities, you're welcome to keep the feet wide for this next pose. Or if you prefer, toes can be together. So I'll leave that up to each of you. Bring your chin to your mat. Start to walk your hands forward. And then press up into your hands enough that you start to rise your head and chest. And then walk your hands in front for Sphinx. In your Sphinx pose, shoulders land over top of your elbows, palms face down, fingertips point forward. Now, if this feels like too much pressure into the low back, walk your hands ahead towards the top of your mat rather than taking the elbows back. Elbows back will be a lot of muscular work. If you walk the elbows more forward, that you'll be relying on the structure of your bones so that you can get more into the joints. Check in that your elbows aren't pointed out to the side like a diamond. Tuck your elbows in so they line up with your shoulders and your hands. And then let your head hang heavy for a moment. And just start to sway the head side to side. So you can end up creating half circles. You might just allow the head to hang heavy for a couple of breaths. It can feel really nice to create a little bit of movement, especially if you know that you hold a lot of tension into your neck and shoulders. If you need more movement, you're welcome to continue with this until you feel that nudge that your body is done and ready to settle. Couple of options for the head. You can keep the gaze down, chin slightly tucked so that your head stays in alignment with your neck and spine. Or if you want to support the head, you can always stack pillows or a block to rest your forehead on. Continue to stay soft through your glutes, through your low back. And tune into the expansiveness of your inhales and your exhales. Notice how your breath moves outward like a starburst in all these different directions. So you might feel your inhale breath, belly pressing into the earth, back of the body lifting up. And exhale, everything drawing back to center, lowering towards the mat. On your next inhale, you might notice the sides of your rib cage moving outwards, left and right. And then exhale like an accordion, pressing back through center. And then can you imagine your breath starting from this tiny little space in the center of your body. And as you inhale, your breath moves outwards in all directions, to the top of your head and the tips of your toes. And then exhale, it rinses back through center, allowing yourself a space to simply land. Take 3 more breaths, just like that. Feel how much space you have to move and to shift. And then feel how there's always somewhere for you to land. we'll take one more minute in this shape. If you want to come into a little bit more depth, you can play with seal pose. Pressing into your hands, you can play with floating your elbows off of your mat. Gaze still stays down, neck long. If this is too intense, you can always walk your hands a little bit further forward. Still soft through the glutes, so the muscles are relaxed. If you just want to stay as you are, or you need to lessen or intensify the depth, just listen to those little nudges of your body. Different than the nudges of the ego. And when you come into that shape, allow it to be nourishing. Allow it to be giving back to what your body needs. If you are up in seal, you can gently release elbows and forearms to your mat. Take out any props and just push them forward or off to the side. And once again, lower down onto your belly and take your arms back, opposite cheek this time to your mat. If you're craving movement, you can always gently rock your hips side to side, feeling the fronts of your hip bones press in towards the ground. Or you're also welcome to pick up your feet, bending your knees, and drop your feet to the left and then over to the right, just side to side. The next time your feet come up through center, you can gently release tops of your feet down, and you can walk your feet hip width distance or together. Bring your chin to your mat. Plant your hands beside your shoulders. And pressing into the earth, begin to peel yourself away to rise the hips back to a tabletop. If you're craving movement here, if the spine's feeling a little sticky, it might be nice just to shift through the spine. We will land into a child's pose. Now, if you need this to be more restorative today, grab a couple of pillows or a bolster, separate your knees wide, and then you can drape your body over top of that pillow. If you need to support your hips, you can always take the bolster underneath your hips instead and take your forehead onto another pillow. So you get to choose. It's okay to take one of your cheeks to your mat if that better serves you. I'll cue you about halfway to switch and see how that feels. Think about your lower back rooting down towards your heels. Even if your hips don't touch, that there's this energetic movement down, this slight rounding of the low back. And then as you just pause in this shape, I encourage you to repeat this mantra with me. I give myself permission to feel all of my feelings. Now you can say this out loud if you like. You can say this just in your own mind or let the words just saturate. I give myself permission to feel all of my feelings. I give myself permission to to feel all of my feelings. You can repeat this as many times as you need. I give myself permission to feel all of my feelings. Not just the ones I've labeled as good or bad. Not just the easy emotions, but the hard ones too. Those of you that have taken one of your cheeks to your mat or onto a pillow, you can just play with shifting to the other side. Allow your gaze to come over the other shoulder. Come back to your mantra. I give myself permission to feel all of my feelings. And brick by brick, you start to take down that wall. You start to take down the barriers that bind your heart. And you start to allow a little bit more space for yourself to simply land. Even when the walls of your heart feel stretched thin, I promise you, there is still more space for you. That you can feel this. You can be in those moments. Take 3 more full breaths. And bring your chin back through center. Start to lift your hips away from your heels. And release any props or blocks out from underneath. Take your knees back to center, and you might just shift this side to side, rinsing out the spine, the hips, head or neck. And when you're ready, shift your feet to either side and around and in front. Caterpillar, forward fold. Now you can always take some pillows underneath your knees so that your body is supported. So what I would ask in this pose is, instead of just draping and trying to hold yourself up, is use as many props as possible so that when you're folding, you're fully supported. Hands can always support your head, whether your head is rested onto your arms. The bend in the knees can help if your hip creases feel especially stiff. If you're choosing straight legs, you can always take your props over top of your legs. So just make sure that wherever you are folding, that there is a relaxation of the spine. That you're not having to hold yourself up, that you can simply drape yourself down. Notice where you've started this shape and whether you've given yourself room to move through this. Or can you ease back slightly so that you can be fully present and that you can just surrender to the natural rhythms of your body, that you can surrender to your body's own knowledge of what it needs, rather than trying to force or control your pose. Folds are energetically really safe. That we're closing in on ourselves. That instead of being completely open to the world around us, that it's almost like a soft embrace to self. And even though this practice is about the permission to feel, it's a reminder you need these moments to reset. You need these moments to sometimes just check in with what it is that you're feeling before you stay open to it. Sometimes we just need to close out the outside world so that we can hear what's happening within. Try to go beyond the sensations of your pose. Perhaps beyond the thoughts of your mind. And just allow yourself to go deeper into what it just feels like to be here. It doesn't have to have words. You don't have to have labels or a whole narrative written around this. Just simply, what is the experience of sitting with yourself? Take 5 more full breaths. And see if you can just sink into this experience. It might be physical depth. It could be the depth of your breath. Or maybe you just open up your heart that extra inch. Take your time to walk your hands up the length of your legs. Let your head still hang heavy. Stack your vertebra one by one. And slowly coming up to seated. You can just pause here, eyes closed for a moment, shoulders stacked over top of your hips. Feel your breath rise and fall. And then start to lean back, walking your hands behind you. You can keep the legs straight, or you can always bend into your knees. And just tilt your head back for a moment, opening up through the throat. You might gently wash your knees left and right. And then walk yourself back to a comfortable seat just to set up your props around you. Optional in this next pose to take this recline. So if you do have blocks, you can set them up as you would to come into a supported fish. Block under your shoulders on the long skinny edge, the medium level, block under your head on the highest level. You could also take your pillows to support your chest, or you can grab a more dense pillow to hold you up. From seated, you'll take your left leg to extend out and right knee is bent. Roll yourself towards your left hip, so your right hip lifts, and then scoop your right foot behind and off to the side. So you'll notice that you can see my right heel for your half heroes pose, and the top of the foot is pointed up. Now, if this pose isn't available, you can always take reclined deer, shift to the left again, unwind your right leg, and then you're gonna take more of that pinwheel shape. So left shin will be forward and right shin is off to the side. So either this shape or a half heroes pose. And then you'll just start to walk your hands back. Some of you might just sit back onto the hands and hold here. Some of you might be able to lay yourself back onto props. The lower that your upper body goes, the more opening you'll receive into your right quadricep. Those of you that are taking more of the reclined deer, if it's pulling on your right knee, this might be a better option. You can always play with the angle. So you might end up folding more to the side than back, but just try to find a sensation into the front of your right quad. Know that it's okay if you have to slightly shift the pose. If the angles of the legs aren't perfect 90 degrees, that's okay. Just honor that there's no unnecessary pulling, there's no pain in any joints. If you want to add in a little bit of opening of the heart, you can take the arms wide as well. Hands face up, especially if you are laid back. So really let your upper body sink in. Allow yourself to just feel. There might be some physical resistance. Might be some mental resistance. Some labels that you've already placed on this pose. Can you feel that resistance and then offer yourself space to just be? It's okay to not necessarily love each pose of your practice. It's okay to have moments of disconnect, moments of challenge. This practice isn't about perfection. It's not about being easy or perfectly liked. The practice is just about showing up and sitting with yourself in these poses that often cause us to feel into the physical body, thus being a gateway to feel into the soul. this takes a lot of strength, a lot of dedication to stay when it's easier to run or to shut down. And so right now, you are practicing showing up for yourself when it's not easy, when it's really damn hard. To just breathe and know that in time, how you feel in this moment won't always be the same. Take a full breath in. And a long exhale, breath out. Especially if you've laid all the way back, take your time to just slowly come up onto forearms and then hands. Shift over to your straightened leg, and you can start to use your hand to cross your right knee over your body and then straighten out that right leg. If your ankle or foot is a little bit sore or tight, you can circle the ankles. It might feel nice just to drape forward and fold to create some length in the backs of the legs, more so than the spine. There's no right or wrong. You could always bend the knees and wash knees left and right, so just whatever feels best for you. And we're just simply setting up for the other side. You can shift over to your right hip, bend into your left knee, and scoop your left heel beside your left hip. Optional as well, if you want to sit up onto a block or a prop can be nice. If you prefer that deer shape, instead of having the foot in close, the one of the bent leg, you can actually shift more onto a pinwheel shape. So that left knee is further out to the side, and the weight in deer is different. It's in your right hip in this pose. So you can kind of choose what variation you need in this shape, whether both knees are bent or one leg is straight and one knee is bent. Just make sure that wherever you have landed, there's no pulling into especially that back knee, the left knee. Once again, settle your shoulders underneath your body if you're laying back. If you're just onto your hands, find a comfortable place to rest. Close down your eyes and come back to your mantra. I give myself permission to feel all of my feelings. Think about how different of a world you would live in if there weren't good or bad emotions. How much freedom you would have if we didn't avoid the grief or pain, the resentment, the fear. That this is a duality of life, both the happiness and the sorrow, the creation and the destruction, the light and the dark. And yet we so fear that dark side, the hard emotions, the discomfort. But what if you didn't have to? What if heartbreak could actually be your greatest teacher? What if fear could actually be a friend that pulls you out of being stuck, fear shows you where you're not showing up for yourself? What if resistance was that opportunity to slow down and pause, to reset and give yourself more space? Or challenge those moments you thought would break you? What if instead you saw challenge as something good, something that built you into where you are now? What if there was no right or wrong or good or bad with emotions? That it just simply showed us how we were interacting with the world around us. That they became a deeper textbook to our soul. Can you now allow yourself to let go of control and just simply feel? Especially as we come towards the end of this side. Can you have space to breathe, to feel physical sensations, to feel into the different senses of your body, to just feel the experience. Take your time in coming out of this shape. Just slowly lift yourself up. You'll make your way towards your right hip, taking your left knee across, and then straightening your right leg out. Okay. Now you can bend the knees and drop them over to left and right. You can straighten out the legs and fold. You can circle the feet, just taking any movement that it feels like your body is craving after this last fairly intense shape. And you can actually begin to release your props out from behind you when you're ready. And then slowly make your way onto your back, bending into your knees, planting into your feet, and then lowering down. If you feel called to stretch out the body or curl in tight, there's no right or wrong. Just allowing yourself a little bit of space to land here. And then release the soles of your feet down if your knees were lifted. Okay. So many options and variations for your twist. So I'll leave the openness up to you of what you're craving for your practice. If what I cue today, you need something different, you're welcome to take that. Okay. Shoulders stay in the center of your mat. You can pick your hips up and over to the left side, and you can walk your feet over to the left as well. Cross your left thigh over your right so that there's no space between the thighs, like they're glued together. And then taking your knees into your chest, you can slowly begin to lower your knees all the way over to the right. Now, I really like props in this pose and typically need them to be comfortable, so you can stack blocks or pillows for that left knee to land on. If you'd prefer, if this feels like it pulls in the low back, come back through center, untangle the legs, and just lower both knees over to the right without that cross in the legs. Arms can come out wide, could cactus, could diamond shape. There's no right or wrong. And if there's no right or wrong to our practice, then perhaps there's also no right or wrong to how we feel within this. That this essentially, it is our practice. It is ours to feel. It is ours to move through. It is our experience to have exactly as it needs to happen. I think about all the times that I tried to resist where those little nudges were pushing me. And ultimately, I ended up where they wanted me to go. But sometimes I think I took the harder path because I thought I knew better. But instead of just surrendering and following that gut instinct, intuition, heart nudge, I tried to force it, to contain emotions, to carve out perfection. And naturally, it all unwound. And so perhaps here, instead of taking all of these side paths, that we just trust the one that's already there. And maybe not the one that you've been on, or you thought you'd be on, but the one that lies deep within your gut, from that place where your air was moving in and out as we started practice. This just knowing feeling. What does this silence and space hold for you? Perhaps the time to just listen. Space to give back to self. Room to release or to open up. Gently, you can start to unwind back through to center, lifting your knees back up, gaze back up, and shift your hips in towards the center of your mat again. And then it might feel nice to drop knees side to side, left or right, maybe knees into chest. Just give yourself a nice big hug. If you did use props on the right side, you can just move them over to the left. And when you're ready, feet will plant. And just make sure your hips shift over to the right before you move into this twist, so you have some room for the spine. Right leg will cross over top of your left. You can bring your knees in towards your chest, and then slowly begin to lower your knees over to the left. Always optional to untangle the legs and just stack a right leg over top of the left. Take a moment to check in with where you've landed, making sure that this experience serves you in connection, that this experience serves you in being present for those emotions. Ultimately, our body is a pathway to our heart, to our higher being. And so listen to the languaging of your body. Your body reacts to the world around it in this intuition or just all-knowing way. Tune into that here in your practice. Embrace the lessons, the information you're being given. And just simply listen. It might lead you closer to that language of your heart, to that language of your soul. Take 3 to 4 more breaths on this side. Notice how you don't have to control the breath. You don't have to control the beat of your heart. You can simply sit with them. And when you're ready, unwinding back through center, shift your hips into the middle of your mat. Take any final movements, or if there's a pose that you're craving, you're welcome to come into that shape, maybe happy baby, maybe dead bug, maybe just washing the knees side to side. So no right or wrong again. This is your practice, and if you feel a nudge to take something for your practice, let go of the urge to apologize or worry that it's not correct. We're moving to Shavasana. So allow these movements to release any stuck energy so that you can come fully into the stillness of this shape. I wanted to share with you a quote that I had found or a passage I found that really speaks, I think, to what we've gone through today. Of feeling all of the feelings, not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. Please, whatever you do, just leap towards tenderness. Leap towards connection. We are all afraid to say too much, to feel too deeply, to let people know what they mean to us. But caring is not synonymous with crazy. Expressing to someone how special they are to you, it will make you vulnerable. There's no denying that. However, it's nothing to be ashamed of. There's something breathtakingly beautiful in the moments of smaller magic that occur when you strip down and are honest with those who are important to you. When you choose to slam your heart into those who ignite something within it. When you express, and so express, express, express. Open yourself up. Do not harden yourself to the world. And be bold in who and how you love. There is so much courage in that. After reaching out to one of my best girlfriends the other week after a hard day, she sent me a message saying, relationships are hard, marriage is harder, life is hardest. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be there for you. And I think as we navigate all of these shifts through life, with or without the craziness of right now, that we just stay true to what we feel, because it will always, always, always be our guide. And it will also offer us connection to those that we love around us. I'll leave you here in Shavasana so you can take as much time as you need to come out of this shape, and truly from the bottom of my heart. Namaste.